Hi, friends. My name is Mia Park. Welcome to my interview series. This is InterSpawn, interviews with intriguing internalizers. Live streamed on my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel. And I am sorry about today's delay. I'm doing this all myself, and I had a little schedule blip like I do sometimes. So thank you for the patience of today's wonderful guest, Robert Perry.
Hi.
Robert, hi. Um, so Robert's been on my A list to interview in this series since I came up with it about 2 months ago, because I'm defining an internalizer as someone who is connected to a deeper part of their self that can respond to the outside world in this deep internal place. And I've known Robert for over 30 years. I think we're going on 32 years, Boo.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know.
Glad one of us is keeping track of that.
Yeah, I know. See, Robert, I remember back in the day, like I never knew how old Robert was, and I finally found out his birthday one year. And I was like, I'm so like conditioned to be like, it's your birthday. How old are you? And Robert would be like, is it my birthday? I don't know
Uh,
how old I am. And I was like, this
wow.
guy's so cool, man. He's so deep. That was like back in the 80s. Anyway, so Robert has always been, you've always been someone so like very much in the world and of the world, but I've always recognized a part of you that's like able to kind of not be unconscious of yourself. Like you've always had a consciousness in yourself, even being in the world. And that's, Robert's one of my like adult life makers because when we met, I was a teenager. And so knowing Robert for 32 years and being in touch the entire time has really like influenced me. And I have to bust Robert out. Like, I thought you were so cool back in the day. We were like in a rockabilly scene in the 80s. And
Uh,
I was like, he wants to be my friend.
uh,
Wow, that's so cool. And then we just kept in touch. And there was some point in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s. I'm like, he's still my friend. Am I that cool that I can be Robert Perry's friend? Oh my God.
uh, it's very, very mutual. I've learned so much from you over the years. For,
Oh,
even
so
just like
great.
talk this afternoon before we got started. I'm like, you gave me some good things to think about. So
Oh,
thank you. You're
thanks.
always doing that.
Oh, Robert's so good. So, in case you don't know who Robert is, Robert's in Philadelphia, my hometown, where we met. And then I'm in Chicago now. And Robert has been the longtime business owner of like the most popular, I think it's like the coolest, fun restaurant bar in Philadelphia called Tattooed Moms. And before that was managing Sugar Moms for a long time, which was also like super popular. So if you're in and around Philadelphia, everybody's heard of Tmoms. Everybody knows Tattooed Moms. Well, that's Robert. In addition to that, Robert is one of the people that is a living, breathing artist. Like I feel like everything, Robert, that you touch and do is a creative expression of yourself. Your house and your house and where you live. Like I've got a collection of like super cool, weird art postcards for 3 decades from all over the world from Robert Perry. So like I feel like you're just this living, breathing artist too.
Oh, thank
So
you.
yeah, is there anything else you'd like people to know about you?
Well, I think you've summed it up pretty well. I mean, I'm just a regular guy doing regular things, and having a fun time at it. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation today.
Oh, thanks, Robert. So I've also been calling Robert Robert for a couple decades. I don't know why. It's just the kind of a nickname I have. So if that comes out, that's why. Um, so, Robert, you are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you how you're defining what the outside world looks like for you, and then your internal response. And forgive me, I should frame this. It is June 20th, 2020. So one day after Happy Juneteenth. And we are dealing with the pandemic of police brutality against Blacks and the cause for Black Lives Matter and really fighting for racial justice that is long overdue in the middle of the COVID-19 health pandemic. And so that's to set the scene.
Yeah. So there's a lot to sort of unpack in Philadelphia. I think that this is a really amazing, as you know, Mia, because you grew up here and you lived here. It's amazing, very vital, very diverse, very uh, activist based kind of city. It's a great place. And the outside world has been kind of like a lot of people. I feel sort of disconnected to it in a lot of ways over the past few months because I honestly, personally, don't venture out that much into it. If I do, it's usually quite early in the morning for a bike ride or to go into my workspace and get some things done. So my personal interaction with the outside world has been r- strangely really limited over the past few months, which is not my usual style, and it feels very internally it feels very strange to live in a city and not be able to go out and really be like in it. um, you know the experience of living in a city is you open your door, and the minute you open your door, like you're in it, like 100%. Like whether it's someone sitting on a stoop or somebody driving by in a car, or riding a bike or skateboard, or groups of people congregating, you are in like this very rich uh, present experience, and having my outside world time limited, uh, mostly because of COVID-19, has been strange and odd and brought up a lot of things internally that I've had to sort of like figure out. Like I wasn't even quite aware of how connected I was to the outside world and to the
Mm.
social aspects, particularly of my city. Walking down the street, just running into people, um, having lived here for many decades. Like um, it's a big small town, as you know, and you can walk a couple blocks and see somebody most of the time. So that experience having been sort of like, I don't know, uh, there's almost like a mourning for it in some ways, like seeing like, oh man, I really miss that connection to people. And my job also is very social. Um, the base sort of like framework for it is a typical capitalist bar and restaurant model. But under that, hopefully think that there's a sense of community, a community space that people really enjoy, and I miss that a lot. Like seeing the creativity that happens there every day, seeing the connection that happens there every day, has been hard. I mean, there's ways around it. We connect in other ways, like we're connecting right now in a virtual way, and that's good that those options that exist now that wouldn't have existed if this had all happened, even 10 or 15 years ago. So it's good to see those options arise, but there's nothing, it makes me realize there's nothing that really compares to actual human contact and human interaction. Um, so I miss that. And then on top of that, you had briefly alluded to um, the uh, the fight against systemic racism and police brutality, and this whole cultural examination that I hope people are doing right now, and that has been very, very strong in Philadelphia. So with a really vibrant, um, African American community, and a lot of people that are supporting that community in many very, very beautiful ways. That's been a cool thing to see,
Mm.
whether it be the daily protests. There's one today that's happening in West Philly, um, a Say Her Name protest. There's something every day, and that's been really encouraging. And to see the momentum continuing with that, and people really getting involved in very deep and detailed ways, whether it be city budget or uh, justice for specific people or whatever it is, like, or how we can look at how we support black-owned businesses and creators and restaurants and all these things. I think this really is cool to see and really important. And internalizing that is like, I think about, well, how can I do better, both personally as a person, um, to educate myself, to do the work, to be a true person that, coming from my heart, to support it in any way I can. And also as a business place and a public space to be more open, I like to think that we're super open, but I'm sure there's ways that we're probably not. I'm sure there's ways
Mm.
we need to do better, and to think about how my business and myself can continue to do better in this time has been an internal dialogue that I've been having.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. I had a feeling talking to you would make me cry. So this is the first time I've wept on this series. I think part of that is also what you're talking about with being in Philadelphia. So I was born and raised in Philly, right?
Mhm.
And Philadelphia has always been a working class town, scrappers, hardworking people in Philly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But still with the opportunity like you to open up a business that is a place of peace. It's what I'm so affected by right now emotionally is how as simple it seemed being a kid in Philly. Like I moved all around Philly. We lived in some scary neighborhoods, but I remember graduating from 8th grade at Marston Elementary in Alney, and it was so diverse. I mean, there were like other Koreans and Chinese, large Puerto Rican population, um, decent African American population, and the working class white kids that were German descendants of that once German neighborhood. And I just, there was Portuguese kids there. It was so innocent and so diverse. And that is how I remember Philly.
Yeah.
And I just can't understand why that harmony of us being in school, I don't ever remember any racial disparity in that. There was other stuff going on. There was like economic, like we were all poor, the whole thing. But I just remember at least like the time of us getting along in Philly. Why can't we continue that formula as adults? Like from Marston Elementary in Alney, Philadelphia to Pennsylvania out to the world. And I'm so glad that you are running the kind of business that you are. And when last time, I was in Philly at the DNC, and you were there hosting many events there, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
So there's two things I want to ask you about your business, if I may, which is,
Sure.
I think, a reflection of your insight. One, I just want to comment to people that Robert mentioned to me when other businesses were boarding up their windows, Robert was putting in signs of affirmation and love, as opposed to boarding the windows up. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, can you say, do you want to say a little bit about why you did that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my internal dialogue about it was the first weekend of the major protests that were happening, and along with that, there was um, some violence and some looting, and things like that happening in different parts of the city. And the neighborhood that I am in, the South Street neighborhood, I think about 12 businesses got broken into or vandalized in some way. And so the day after that, I had a couple of different people call me or text me or message me and say, "Hey, I'm worried about you guys, and I'd be happy to come down this morning and board up your store front if you want." And I really appreciated the offer, but just didn't. I sat with it for not very long, actually. Sat with it for only a couple minutes, and I kind of just didn't feel. I mean, I said I appreciate the offer, but I don't feel that's who I am, and that's what I want to do, and that's the message that I want to send to the city that I live in right now, and that I'm a partner in right now. Not to in any way pass judgment on other people who decided to do that. I mean, it's a very, very personal and emotional decision, and especially for retail storefronts who had a small business person who maybe had their entire inventory, their entire investment in their business inside those doors. It could be a very scary thing for them. So I just
That was God. She was just like, "Thank you. I'm going to send you a text." Boop, boop.
no, but the bottom line was I felt it sent this wrong message. I felt it sent a message of fear and a message of, um, sort of pushing away of what was happening. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I had already had some posters up from Amplifier and Just Seeds, which are two great organizations that do a lot of art that you can download. that had a lot of some positive messaging during COVID that I put in my windows. So I just added to that and had some specific posters and artwork that addressed the Black Lives Matter movement and showed solidarity against police brutality and against systematic racism, and just filled the windows with those instead, and kind of said, you know what, my windows still might get smashed in, but I'm doing what I believe in, and um, you know, that's the best I could do. And luckily, I mean, I'm grateful, luckily for me, that nothing did happen. But I have noticed that a lot of people have stopped and looked at the windows and taken pictures of the posters. And, I hope that it had some small effect on people just thinking, even for 1 second, like maybe thinking differently about their world, or feeling an affirmation about what they already felt. That was my hope. And I'll leave them up there as long as I can.
See, now that, again, you are like one of the people I know that are just live and breathe who you are inside in your outside life. So that expression of trust and faith, and also honestly a resignation, like if your windows get smashed, that's it. But the fact that you covered that window with positive affirmations and signals of love, man, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, but like I said, I had to have that conversation though with myself. There was still an
Mm.
internal dialogue. I mean, I knew in my feeling was that I just boarding up just makes me feel uneasy. It makes me feel more angsty and anxious than if I didn't. So I still had to have this internal conversation with myself, even though I knew what was right. I had to figure out, why do I feel this way? Like, why am I reacting against this so strongly, against the idea of boarding up so strongly? I had to think about it and examine it a little bit in my head, and then think about, well, what do I want to do instead? And so
Mm.
my expression did require an internal dialogue.
Wow, thanks. Well, I'm glad that it did, and I'm glad you took the time to do that, because it's got to be authentic. And we were talking about this before we started. You are a business owner and you have staff, and I know that you are deeply connected to people that work for you, and that you are really prioritizing their welfare. You're loving, um, and I know that you have had, like, money, like I think it was like order to go, and all the proceeds go to your staff funds and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about being a business owner during the pandemic?
Sure, I think that it's been a challenge for anybody, whether someone like you, who's an independent business owner. You might not have like a big staff or anything, but you run several businesses on your own.
Hustle, hustle.
Hustle is strong. So, uh, I think that all of us have gone through this time of like reflection and time of reinvention. And like I was alluding to you before, it's like I stopped and thought about it the other day, because my sense of time, as you know, is very odd and not very it's not very plugged into like the traditional way we measure it sometimes. So I think, wow, it's been like almost 4 months, that we've been in this kind of different kind of way of having to work, and different kind of way of having to do business. And it occurred to me that there's been several sort of what you call pivots in this time. And I felt like I had stopped the other day and I thought about closing down entirely, reopening for takeout, adding in delivery partners, working towards a more open thing, whether it be a walk-up window or sidewalk seating, or when we were finally allowed to open our doors again and allow people to invite people back in, that will be on a whole different level, different occupancy, lots of different new things that we have to have in place to do that. And I felt like every step of that way, whether it be our menu or how we communicate to our community, or how we work together as a staff, had so many variables that we had to think about and figure out and pivot and change and adapt and um, uh, reinvent, that I was like, oh my God, I feel like I just opened like 4 new businesses in 4 months. And I never really, I'd just been doing it. Like a lot of us were on autopilot. We're like, what do I need to get done today? Like what are today's challenges that I need, or this week's challenges that I need to start thinking about and working on? But I never stopped to think like how each of those were major shifts in the way that we all work together, and the way that we work with our community, and the way that we present ourselves to the world as a business. It was really the work of like opening 3 or 4 new businesses in the same amount of months. But I think that even someone like you, who's doing something like uh, individually your business, you've had to re-examine how you do what you're doing, and had to re-examine like how you can connect with your community, how you can connect with how you can keep your business sustainable, and keep your vision of what you want to present to the world pure and authentic. And it's a challenge.
It's a challenge. Thanks. Yeah, we were talking about the reinvention of ourselves, whether it's just me taking care of myself, or you've basically got a family of staff to take care of, and you've got your blood family too.
Absolutely.
Um, so I think that, I always frame the pandemics as the pressure needed to change. That much pressure needed to change coal into a diamond. So we're definitely, again, you being so with your very nurturing personality, you're always taking care of other people. Thank you. I've been lucky enough to be the receiving end. Well, one thing, I think I was on tour. I was in a band that was on tour once. I'd like sent people to Robert. He doesn't even know. I'm like, oh, Robert. So one time, one of the bands I was in was on tour, and I think one of my tour mates, we were in different cars and vans, got to your house before I did,
Mhm.
and I walked in, and they were just like, this guy's really cool. He has some snacks over there. And you're like, oh, I laid some snacks out. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm not hungry. And then my friend came back from your kitchen. She had like a little plate of olives. I was like, who leaves out olives? And I went to Robert had laid out like this Mediterranean spread with like different kinds of olives and
Oh,
dips and chips and little tiny pickled tomato. I was like, for like all of our bandmates that just rolled up on Robert in his cute little home. So and that was like 20 years ago. That's Robert. Um, but we talked about like the pressure and the demand that we need to reinvent ourselves with now as business owners and also as human beings. So
yeah.
with that understanding that like, you're having had and are reinventing yourself, do you trust in the future? And if so, what do you trust?
I absolutely trust in the future. I think that, how could you possibly go on if you don't, really? I mean, I think it's vital to trust in the future, even though I have absolutely no clue what that's even going to look like. Like if you had told me this moment was my future 6 months ago, I would have been looking at you like, what? Really? So, I think, yes, for me personally, I have to stay open to what the future is, and trust that it's going to be uh, better for everyone. It's going to be okay for everybody. We're going to get through this okay. But that point that you had brought up about this pressure, and I think it's through your Tai Chi practice that you've learned about like pressure pushing change. And I see that on so many levels in culture and society in good ways, that sometimes painful pressure, whether it be, the pressure of the pandemic, or the pressure of hopeful cultural change, like at real levels about systemic racism, or pressure about economy. Like in my business, like, the restaurant and hospitality business is screwed up. Like I try to do my best with the people that I work with, but like it's a deeply flawed system, and most capitalist models are honestly deeply, deeply flawed. So my hope is that the pressure that it's putting on these models, which many of them do not serve us and are not useful to us, will affect change for the future that's positive, and that's like real, and that it really moves us all together. not just a few of us, but all of us together in a good,
Mhm.
positive way. That's my hope.
Oh, thanks. What you just said about all of us in that context of pressure, like I used to frame things that the phrase "mother is the," I'm sorry, necessity is the mother of invention.
Hmm.
I learned that from like Schoolhouse Rock from the 70s or something, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of been in the like a driving force in my mind. And then I found a different language for that with that it's the pressure needed to transform. So I do think that that pressure is necessary, which is necessity being the mother of invention. And that invention is our transformation or reinvention. But you're right, it's like individual for all of us, like surviving and like taking care of your staff and your family, but also like how do we do that together? I'll tell you, I think that this pandemic is going to do great things in the long run for society. I am also trustful for that too.
I'm
But
happy.
yeah, so we're at about time, and
Okay.
thank you. So I could, sit here and talk to you for another 32 years, but
Thank you so
so
much.
Robert Perry, like for real soul brother. So thank you.
Soul sister. Thank you,
Yay,
Mia.
soul sister, Korean hearts. Robert's like honorary everything. He's like honorary Korean. He's like an
Ah,
honorary brother. He's always yes. I'm giving you the K card. You get
oh,
a Korean card because he's always been along. Yay, ally. Um,
yes.
so thank you. So this is just one of a bunch of really cool interviews, but Robert really is like super dear to me.
Watch them
Um,
all. I encourage you to watch them all. I've been watching them. Every couple of days I'll take one in, and they're amazing. They really give me so much insight to like how other people are getting through this time. Mia. So thank you so much for
oh my gosh.
investing your energy into this.
Thanks. That's so kind of you. Thanks. It's fun. I get to talk. Come on, I'm talking to you. It just happens there's like an internet watching, but you're like my boo. Come on. But anyway, thanks. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like, you know what they say, like my Facebook page, subscribe to my YouTube channel. These interviews are going to be going on through at least into August, so far as I know. So we're going to keep going. So, Robert, I love you, my dear.
You too.
Thank
Love
you.
you. Thank you.
Love you. Okay. Thanks. Bye, everyone.